What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Tech Time Live. I'm Jacob DiBattista with the BEA Tech Services Department, and moderating the chat is Rob Rivera. If you have any questions you have at any time during this presentation, do feel free to let us know. And if you have any comments you'd like to make, put them in the comments box. The point of this Tech Time Live today is to go over the BR3-X. And what the BR3-X is a three relay programmable module. It has about 13 different functions in it. To give you a brief example, we can use it for something like unlocking a mag, providing delay, and then opening a door. And we're not going to power it in this presentation. This Tech Time Live is primarily going to be about the physical layout, describing it, brief overview of what it does, what it is, and just briefly going over all the functions. So to start out, this is what it looks like right here. You see it has the label on the top. This is an LED screen on the right side. If you were to give this power, 12 to 24 volts, it would light up. You would have 0, 0 on there showing function 0, meaning it's in standby, it needs programmed. So we're going to start from left to right. So with this BR3, the first thing you do is you have to give it an input in order to get an output, as with any other relay. So starting out, we have wet. And what this is this is a wet input into the BR3-X. So inputs 1 through 4 are dry. They do not need voltage, which is what dry is. Wet means it can accept incoming voltage temporarily, not permanently. Because if you permanently give voltage into the wet input, it's going to consistently give an output out of relay 1, 2, 3, whatever you have it set for. Now, where it says wet, we have a wet output as well, which we're going to go into, but the primary difference is this is an input into the BR3. Your device is giving voltage temporarily when it gives activation to the wet input, where the wet output is giving an output from the BR3-X to your strike, to your mag, whatever you're hooking it up to. So that's what the wet input is. Depending on what function you have, it's going to trigger. We have input 1 and ground, input 2 and ground, 3 and ground, and 4 and ground. These are your dry contacts. Say you have a push plate, gives no voltage. You're just completing a circuit. They would go into one of these inputs depending on what number function you use. And we're going to go over that so it makes sense at the end of the presentation. So for example, if you do input 1, it might fire relay 1, or it might fire relays 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3, or individually, depending on which input you do. So that's the inputs that you can see right at the bottom. We have these little slots that you can put the wires in. All you have to do is unscrew one of these screws here, just enough, don't take it out, just enough that it's loose. Put your wire in, hold it in there, and screw it tight. Make sure you have a good solid connection. Don't pull too tight, but loosely pulling that wire to make sure it's going to stay. We have the relays, relay 1, 2, and 3. You'll see we have a normally open, a normally closed, and a common. Now, relay 1 is the one that I said gives a wet output. That's the only one that can give a wet output, and we'll go over how it does that at the end. Relays 2 and 3 are dry. You can decide if you want it to be voltage coming out or just dry contact, just like a push plate. Just set an activation. There's no voltage coming out. Send an activation to your door, whatever you're trying to send it to. Now, speaking of the wet output, whatever you feed this BR3 with, say you're giving it 12 volts DC, that's what's going to come out of relay 1. Whatever you feed it with is what comes out. So then we have relays 2 and 3. So that's a basic layout on the terminals blocks. Like I said, depending on what function, it'll fire just relay 1, just relays 1 and 2, or all of them. We have the AC/DC. That's where you put your power in, 12 to 24 volts. Anything in between. Doesn't have to be 12 or 24 itself. It could be 15, it could be 18. And we have these jumpers. You'll see there's 2 right here and 2 right here. These 2 on the left side are AC/DC. That's going to decide what comes out of relay 1 if you set the 2 jumpers on the right side to wet. So there are 2 jumpers for each one. You have to do both. You cannot just do this one on AC/DC, you can't just have one going up and one going down. That's not going to work. They have to be going in the same direction, both of them. So you can put in AC and it's going to rectify it to DC. Just know you're going to have a voltage change as if with any rectifier. Or you can put AC and it comes out AC as long as you have the jumper set. And then the ones on the right here, the wet and dry, that's going to determine, like I said, what comes out of relay 1, if it's going to be voltage coming out or if you're going to have just dry contact. Over here on the very end of this BR3, we have 2 buttons. We have function and we have increment. Increment, when you're setting up the BR3, is what sets your function. So you're going to cycle through with increment to set function 10, function 11, 28. And then on the right side, you can cycle through how long do you want relay 1 to hold for? How long do you want relay 2 to hold for? And you can set the delay. And that's a basic overview. Part number, by the way, is just 10 BR3X. Should come with some Velcro too. I got some on the back here. And I think after that, we're just going to jump into the user's guide. We're going to show how it programs. So I'm going to share my screen. And right now, you should see the BR3X user's guide. You'll see at the top, programmable, 3 relay, advanced logic module, and restroom controller. There are a lot of different things you can do with this one BR3. So for the functions, you'll see that we have 13 different functions here. Function 10 is the first one. This is just the timer. So when you activate input 1, and actually, let's just skip to the wiring. Then we'll go over those. Function 10, if you activate input 1, which you'll see on the left side, you'll see dry contact activation. Each function has wiring on the pages of the user's guide. So you never have to get confused about the wiring. Input 1 sends an activation to relay 1, and it's going to fire, giving it an output. Just relay 1, not 2 and 3, not all of them, just relay 1. And this is good if you need something with a timer. How long, if you're just connecting it to a door, how long do you want it to hold for? As long as there's no lock on it. So what makes function 10 so special is it has reverse logic. What that reverse logic means is it allows for a normally closed input 1. Now on all of our functions, every single one, you have to be normally open on the inputs. If you do normally closed, it's going to consistently send an activation out of relay 1, 2, 3, whatever it's set for. Now relay 1 with input 1 on function 10, you can make it so it's a normally closed input 1. And what that's good for is, let's say, for example, you have a fire door, and if something were to happen that the system fails, it's going to let that door come closed and stay closed. And that's just one example of what the reverse logic of function 10 can do. And if you have any questions on that, please do put them in the comments. We'll go over it more. We have a ratchet or latching function. 2 names, same thing. So let's say you have one door and there's a push plate on both sides. Well, or a touchless switch on both sides. And if you're holding some cardboard, big boxes, you can't push the push plate, or you can't go by the switch and hit it with your hand. Well, what you can do is you walk by this touchless switch or the push plate, bump it, or walk by. It's going to send an activation infinitely. So one activation is going to send an infinite activation to the door. Door is going to hold open until you push the push plate or wave the open on the other side. And then it's going to let the door come closed. So that's good for if your hands are full, or if you're in a place, heavy traffic area where you need to keep that door open. Function 22. We actually have a YouTube video on this one showing what it's about. Function 22, let's say you have a door-mounted sensor and it's a low-energy door, and you want that door-mounted activation sensor to be inhibited. It's not allowed to open the door. According to ANSI, it primarily cannot open the door. So let's say you walk up to the door, it does not allow that door to open. Well, you hit your push plate, that when the door switch loses its contact, it allows that door-mounted sensor to reactivate the door. And that's what function 22 is good for, inhibiting. And this is actually a 2 relay. So once you give an input on input 1, which you can see here, approach side reactivation sensor, that's going to be what's inhibited. Input 2, is what opens the door if you have a push plate. And then that's going to fire the sequence. Relay 1 is going to unlock the door. Relay 2 is going to activate the door. Function 28, that's our 2 relay sequencer. So this is the basic one where if you have a mag lock on that door, just give it an activation, whether it be wet or dry on input 1 or the wet input, depending on what you're using. And it's going to unlock the door, unlock the mag, the strike, provide a delay, and then activate the door for however long you set it for. It could be a hold time of 59 seconds. It could be a delay of 5 seconds. It goes up from 1 to 59 or 60. We'll skip a little bit of these just to keep it simple. We have a 3 relay sequence with independent relay. Well, what this does is once you trigger input 1 or the wet, relay 1 is going to fire, relay 2 is going to fire, and relay 3 is going to fire according to what you set them for. Hold time of 2 seconds each. Delay between 1 and 2 of half a second. Delay between 1 and relay 1 and 3 for 1 second. So it'll do a sequence 1, 2, 3. Well, if you don't want to fire all 3 relays, you want to segment them independently. We have it so input 2 is going to activate relay 1, input 3 is going to activate relay 2, and input 4 is going to activate relay 3. So it's a 3 relay sequencer with independent relays able to be activated. We have function 50. This is our interlock timer. We actually have wiring diagrams beyond this to show a little better how to wire it up. So once one door is open, it's not going to let the other doors open, whether you have 2 doors, 3, 4. If you start going beyond a certain number of doors, you're going to have more than one BR3-X. But when one door is open, every other door is not allowed to open until it comes closed. So when that door comes closed, now door 2 can open, or door 3, door 4. And we have that same thing with that function 11, the ratchet or the latching function. So when you activate it, door stays open infinitely until you activate the BR3-X again. Function 55. And then we have function 65. Think of it as in a vestibule. When you're going from inside to out, you're going to want the first door to open, delay, then the outside door opens, and reverse. If you're coming into the building from outside, you want the outside button to activate, the first door, which is the outside door, delay, and then the inside door opens. Well, you can also do, if you're in the middle of the vestibule and you have 2 push plates in there, one push plate opens the outside door, the other push plate opens the inside door in case you're stuck in between. That's function 65. Now, for this, we're going to skip normally locked restroom kit and normally unlock restroom kit just because we have another Tech Time Live that fully describes those. Rob had this pretty nicely set up, and he goes over how these work. And the last one, we have day-night mode. Now, this is one of our most common along with function 28. What day-night mode does is, let's say you have an outside button, inside button, a card reader, and a door. You want that outside button to be inhibited or locked until given a card swipe from your card reader at a certain time of day. Well, let's check out the wiring here. You can do it with wet or input 1. These are going to be the push buttons that do not lock. The inside button will always work no matter what time of day. Input 2 is your secure. Your outside button is going to be locked until given a card read or something else, whatever other activation device on input 3. So card read, swipe, input 3 activates, allowing input 2 to be used. And then input 4 is going to be your day-night mode switch, whether that's a physical switch or you wire in your access control to tell it at 5:00 p.m., I want that outside button to be locked unless someone gives it a card swipe. And then it does relay 1, 2, and 3, whichever ones you want to use. So unlock the door, open the door up. And then if needed, we have some troubleshooting here, and we have the specs in case these are needed. And one of the other functions I didn't mention is whether using 2810, whatever, you can also use the BR3 to turn on a light. Just something simple like that. And that's basically all we have for the BR3X. Like I said, we're going to be doing some Tech Time Lives in the near future, going over each function. Some of them are going to be a couple functions in one training, and then we're going to do day-night mode itself at the very end. So now would be the time, if you have any questions, comments you'd like to make, go ahead and say them in the comment box, and me and Rob will answer them.
So a question that I was going to respond to, but since we're talking now, what is the minimum maximum output hold time option? Why don't you take that there, Jake?
Sure. So let's go back to the user's guide. Because the minimum is 0 seconds, and you don't want 0 because it won't do anything. So when you're programming, let's look right here. So this tells you how exactly to program. And this will tell you how to set your hold times. But the maximum hold time is about 60 seconds. And I believe the delay is what, Rob, 59?
It's actually 60 as well.
Okay.
It's actually 60 as well. So the minimum is 1 second for both the delay and the relay, and the maximum for both the delay and the relay is also 60 seconds. So another question that I did respond to, but probably good to elaborate on, is what are the delay timer options? So those delay options do not come into play when you're on function 10 or 11. So just so you know, but the delay options, as I pointed out in my response, are D1 is delay 1 is between relay 1 and relay 2 specifically. So the first few numbers you have an underscore, an underline, and it would say underline 1, underline 2, underline 3, and then 1 second. And the underlines are a quarter of a second adjustment. Those are designed for maglock strikes, or some type of sequence where you just need a quarter of a second or half second, which is common for strikes. And then, of course, once you hit 1 second, your full seconds, that's where your delays go to full seconds, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 60-second delay. And now D2 is the delay between relay 1 and relay 3. So that is something that sometimes techs have struggled with, because one is delay 1 is the delay between relay 1 and relay 2, and delay 2 is between relay 1 and relay 3. And I think sometimes people think that the second delay is going to be between relay 2 and relay 3, and it is not.
Right.
Both of them are delayed between relay 1. Now, Jake, we got another question, which I'll let you take. Can I program the BR3 in the shop and then take them to the job site and install? What happens if power is removed? Does it have any memory?
Right. So the BR3 does keep its memory. If you program it at the shop, you program your function 28, put in your hold times, put in your delay. When you plug it back in, it'll keep it. The only time it wouldn't keep its memory is if there was a power outage and it got some voltage surge. You'll see an E2 error. And then that just means you need to reprogram the BR3.
Let's see, and memory. So in the memory, of course, I lost you there for a split second, but the memory does maintain from being powered. It's designed to withstand power outages and such, and we normally don't have any problem with it. And is it capable of Wi-Fi capability? No, it is not. This is a hardwired system. And we have another question about how about wireless capability work with transmitters. So the BR3-X is a hardwired relay module system. But we do offer a BR2-900 that is wireless, and it's kind of a takeoff of this. But this particular module can work with wireless systems. We oftentimes do that, which means that we'll take our 900 receiver or somebody else's receiver, and you use that as an input to activate one of the relays or a sequence of relays. That can happen, and we work with other wireless systems, but it does not have Wi-Fi, it does not have Bluetooth, it does not have wireless capability in and of itself. And so amperage restrictions is an excellent question. You want to take that, Jake?
Yeah, here, let's just go to the page right here. So you'll see contact rating right there. Current consumption, it's about 30 to 138 or 130 milliamps. And then you'll see the contact ratings against relay 1, 2, and 3 right in the middle. So relay 1, when it's dry, it can take about 3 amps at 24 volts AC or 30 DC. If relay 1's wet, about 1 amp. Relay 2, which relay 2 and 3 are also dry. Relay 2 is 3 amps at 24 volts AC or 30 DC, and the relay 3 is only 1 amp at 24 volts AC or 30 DC.
So now, just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, the relay 1, since it can be wet, the power output, if you choose it to be wet, the power output is what has a limitation on it. We can only supply 1 amp of power coming from the BR3 as a power source when you choose wet output. It's not the relay, it's really the power output, but nonetheless, the contact rating on the relay itself is 3 amps at 30 volts DC, 24 volts AC, or 24 volts AC. The same as with relay 2. Relay 3 is usually used for almost controls and smaller PLCs, Berg systems, intrusion systems exclusively, which is why we rate that at a smaller amperage rating, if that makes sense to everyone. And so, you know, obviously you have to do your amperage calculations, particularly this, by the way, is really the wet output, again, is designed for momentary use, not continuous duty. And usually with most codes and compliances, continuous duty is defined as 20 minutes or longer. So if you were going to hold a strike, for example, our recommendation would be to use relay 1 dry and make and break voltage. By the way, relay 1 also does have a built-in MOV. Maybe Jake mentioned that. That protects the contacts on the relay 1. So any other questions here? So I think that's about all the questions, Jake. I think everybody had some great questions.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching this Tech Time Live. This is the first step of the BR3-X presentation. Like I said, we're going to be starting to do more of these in the upcoming future. Probably January, February, we're going to get all 4, maybe 3 to 4 of these, and we'll see what else we can get in. So if there's any recommendations you have, let us know. Any comments you'd like to make, you can find our emails on beasensors.com. And thanks for watching.